Welcome or welcome back to WatchAdvisor on YouTube. It's Alexander speaking, your host, and with me is Anthony De Haas, Director of Product Development at Lange Söhne here in Glashütte. And we are really in Glashütte. Tony, welcome.
Thank you very much, Alexander. A pleasure as always.
First of all, we have been here for a new watch, and this is, of course, very important for you. But before we start with the watch, I want quickly to resume what we also saw this morning.
Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell to get our latest notifications.
You renamed the watchmaking school.
Yes.
Very important for a manufacturer like Lange Söhne. And it's now called Walter Lange Watchmaking School. Over the years, you had lots of apprentices going through it. I think about 250.
Yes. Today is quite an honor. I think we honor the man, Walter Lange. And I think it's a very good sign that we now renamed the watchmaking school to the Walter Lange internship, or the Walter Lange watchmaking school, because he was always very on future, young, and he spent a lot of time with the young students when he was in the Glashütte. That was he loved to do that. So it's quite an honor.
Without this watchmaking school, isn't it the future of the company as well a little bit?
Absolutely.
Because you get the best of the best. You choose, you educate them, and you form them.
The biggest value we have in the company is these people. Yeah. We tend to talk about watchmakers, but I think all the craftsmen, the finishers, the watchmakers, of course. And we have watchmakers already who went up to the ladder. There's a career possibility. In my department, in the watch development department, we have a movement designer. Mm-hmm. We have two of them who were started the apprenticeship here and were watchmakers. They worked on complications, and now since a couple of years they are movement designers. Mm-hmm. So it's an enormous value, the craftsmanship, but that's what we stand for. And I think it's very important to have a watchmaking school to preserve that also for the future.
Without those, more or less, we can say watches like the new Lange ZEITWERK wouldn't be possible, end of the day, because you need all the craftsmanship, the brain, the talent, the talented people, so it's everything together, and then you need the boss, Anthony, who puts...
Definitely, and so forth. We can create the nicest watches, but we need the people who be able to build them, and also our responsibility to further educate and stimulate. I must say it's really fun to work with young, enthusiastic watchmakers, and we have a lot of them here. Mm-hmm. It's really fun, and they're developing these watches, like we have the ZEITWERK now, the new generation of ZEITWERK.
This is the ZEITWERK, the classical ZEITWERK, in a new, updated version. At first glance, it's difficult to distinguish them. Also very good, because you're not banalizing the old one. It's still the watch, and you have to look twice. Okay, is this the new one, or is this the old one? And the old one doesn't look old. It still looks young.
And that is the challenge by working on such a design. We have ideas. It starts also. It started very often. We launch a watch, and we already think, oh, if I could do it again, I would change this and that. But that's normal, because we work for years on watches before we launch them. So the trick here was, of course, this was obvious when we launched the ZEITWERK date. For us, it was obvious that the other ZEITWERKs in the future, there would come 72 hours power reserve. So here, now it is. And it is even talking about 2 barrels instead of 1. Of course, we didn't not put an extra barrel from the old generation. No, we managed. We really, and I do not want to go into deep because then it would be boring, but we have 2 barrels superposed, slightly thinner, but slightly wider, bigger, and it allows us to put in a longer mainspring. The springs are less strong than the previous version. How come? Because you need to power the remontoire system. So in the remontoire system, we also changed. We changed the slightly, we're talking about milligrams here, the balance wheel slightly lighter. So the remontoire spring, which powers the balance wheel, the escapement,
needs less energy.
Less energy. Mm-hmm. So we worked on all kind of points, and the challenge was, guys, it doesn't make any sense if the watch is double the size than the previous version, because then people don't understand.
People always ask you to make it slimmer.
Yes.
So it fits under the sleeve.
Yeah. And this is slimmer. 0.4 millimeters. Again.
0.4.
of 0.4 millimeters, huh? But for the watchmaker, that is huge.
Yeah, I imagine.
Plus, we have integrated an extra feature. At the 4 o'clock position, what we call 4 o'clock position, there is a push piece. And it allows you, apart of course by changing the time by the crown, pulling the crown, setting the time, is that you can push that button and you can swatch immediately the hours. It's quite an advantage if you travel to time zones or just even...
Without that the watch stops.
Without the watch stopping and without getting bigger, because you must know, every extra mechanism, there are parts. They need to be integrated in an already existing movement. So that is the result. So 41.9 millimeters, the same diameter as before, but 12.2 instead of 12.6.
Let me also say, because Tony explained that before, to realize it in that way, normally when you have a push piece on a watch, the force of your finger will activate levers, etc., but you will transfer also the force, and all the sizes of these components has to be much bigger. So what they did, they turned it around. First you push, and when you release, then the mechanism changes.
So there is no direct contact between your human power of the finger to the delicate pieces of the movement. So it allowed us to stay very slim, but still, of course, very reliable. And that's what we did. So it's a push piece with an inverse action. You push it like any other push piece, but then you have and you release it. Then the switch is gone.
Okay, interesting. And so in terms of design, what can you touch on such an iconic piece?
Not much.
Okay.
We only went in very slight details. If you would have the previous version next to it, you would recognize the small second-hand dial is slightly bigger. Internally, we called it the T-shirt shape bridge, time bridge.
Yeah.
The geometry, the symmetry is slightly changed, but not much. We're talking about tens of millimeters, just to very gently taking things away. The case, the lugs are slightly thinner, the bezel is slightly thinner, so the ouverture, the opening of the dial of the watch is bigger. We call that to give the design more oxygen, more free and space. These were the things we worked on.
And design-wise, the version in red gold does remind me a little bit of a watch you once did that Günther Blümlein insisted on having in its collection.
Yeah.
And it got a nickname called Germany.
It was before my time. It was I think it was in 1997, 98. And of course, for that time, there were not many manufacturers, in fact, who produced their own movement. And he wanted to make another statement, and he says, okay, we're going to make a rectangular watch. And of course, not with a round movement like everybody else did, with a rectangular movement, the cabaret. They made different executions, one in platinum, one in white gold, one in pink gold with the argenté dial, very discreet. And he said, no, we're going to do it differently. And he called that the Deutschland watch. Why Deutschland? The flag of Deutschland is, of course, red, gold, and black. Yeah. And he said, okay, red gold case, black dial, and the gold, the sub dial was argenté. It was like, And I remember from colleagues here who were there at the time, they all like, no, my Mr. Blümlein, this is not nice and it's not elegant. And he said, I don't care. I want to have the people, I want to create a little shock with the people. So, and in fact, the model was quite successful.
Yeah,
nobody expected.
Yeah.
And we said, we want to make a different statement, because over the years, ZEITWERK became a product family. And so we did different executions. And if you launch a new watch, you want to slightly change. You want to create a version which never has been on the market before in that product family. It was also a bit of a tricky thing, looking, and we came inspired by that cabaret. The Deutschland was not the official name, that was the working title.
Of course, yeah.
But that was the inspiration of this watch. It's like, wow, that's cool. The other one is a platinum version, very discreet, elegant, really understated. Argenté dial with a black rhodium time bridge, really a gorgeous piece, but really understated.
There's one big advantage, none of them are limited editions. Limited by production, of course, but it's not that if you say, okay, I'm probably interested in the platinum version, that you have to hurry up because there are only 25, I don't know how many pieces made. It's unlimited, so the chance to get one is much bigger. You have to wait a while maybe, but it is there.
That's why we're working with the watchmaking school.
Yeah.
And of course they are not, because people may think, oh, watchmaking school, there will be new watchmakers, 30 every year. No, they are small classes, it's 3 years, and an average 6 to 8 young people who work during 3 years, and after they come from school, they can't make a ZEITWERK. So we build them up. We have talents, we take a very close eye on what young people are, and we try to guide them. We do not say, oh, you're young, you the first 10 years you make the Saxonia automatic. That doesn't work with us, because you went to the manufactory today, you saw quite young people working on datagraphs and other things.
Impressive,
so if someone, because you have watchmakers who really dream of making a complication, we give them a try. And we have also watchmakers say, no, I'm fine. I love to do the regulars on the plain watch, and I'm good. So, but we are working very hard to build as many pieces we can.
Is it a secret?
Hands.
Is it a secret to ask, or would you call it a secret? How long does it take to accomplish when everything is produced? Let's say all the parts are there.
That's kind of a standard question. It looks like I'm turning around, not try to answer that question. In fact, the reason is a watchmaking reason. Imagine you have the kits, the boxes with all tiny differentiation boxes with all the parts, and they are all finished. Almost all the parts are finished, except for the 3/4 plate. After the first assembly, it's getting finished afterwards. But if a watchmaker starts, and if he is careful with the pre-assembly, also done by the watchmaker, then he can be quite okay. If he is not taking care during the pre-assembly of certain wheels, so it's not entirely flat or something like that, and you don't see it, and you're building and you start to adjust and assembling, then he can build in, it doesn't have any amplitude, why? And then you start searching and things. And then suddenly you lose an extra week. We're talking about weeks here. So it's so hard to say. Sometimes they build this watch in 3 weeks. But sometimes they work this watch in 5 weeks. That's for us also production planning-wise quite a challenge. Yeah. Because it's human, it's not machine. And of course they have their tricks. At the beginning, new caliber, they take way longer. And you see after 1.5, 2 years, the periods get slightly shorter, but it depends. Plus, if you fabricate for the first 200 watches, which takes a couple of years to build, that's a batch of wheels. And for the next order, there's a next batch of wheels. It's technically the same wheels, but they have probably a different tolerance because they are fabricated in a different batch. For the watchmaker, the difference is huge.
To adjust all the details.
Because, many people think, okay, the watchmaker has a box with all parts, and he takes the part, puts it in where the rubies are. Oh, first he has to adjust the rubies, of course, and everything. But the wheels come in, and he put on the bridge, and he screws the bridge, and then the next part. So many people think it's Lego. They forget that he puts in the one wheel, the entire bridge on top, screw it, check the end shake of the wheel. Oh, it's too much. Takes the bridge apart. Then he has to show which jewel I have to press, the one in the main plate or the one in the chaton on top. He knows that. He takes it, he presses the stone gently a little bit down, and again, now I made it too tight. It doesn't have too much and shake. Takes it off again, turns it around, presses out the jewel. That's if you have a whole gear train, it has to do with all the wheels, but also with all the levers and everything. So that is quite a process. So it's difficult to say. If it would have been a machine with assembling, then you can say, now we have a production time and a lead time, and we could say, bam. For us, it's always a bit foggy. Even foggy for us, because it's difficult to plan. And that's why also we do the best we can. And a watchmaker can have a bad day.
that might also help you very much to understand a little bit that excellent watches to be built take a bit longer than average watches.
Of course.
without wanting to say anything negative about anybody else. But yeah, a Lange watch is assembled twice and it takes time. So if you are keen to get one, you might have to wait. But I said it before, they are not limited. That's already good.
Alexander, maybe while you said about the double assembly, some people are thinking, yeah, that's a bit of a marketing thing. But imagine what I told you before. Imagine the gear train assembled and all the wheels he did on, off, on, off. Then at the end he's checking if the gear is flexible. He puts some little oil in the rubies and something is wrong. He takes the bridge away. You know what happens if there's oil in the ruby and you take the bridge away? The oil goes everywhere. So you get greasy, fat spots everywhere. So you need to clean it. That's not what you want to deliver to the client. That is one of the reasons why we have that double assembly. It must be perfectly clean and perfectly lubricated.
And it's German silver, so it is also difficult to handle.
No touching with
No
fingers?
touching, otherwise it would look really shitty. Sorry.
Not good.
Not good. Anthony de Haas, thank you very much for introducing the piece, also for your little excursions in production at Lange Söhne.
Yeah.
It's always good to be here. And yeah, keep on also educating young generations, bring them to watchmaking. And yeah, they all want to be once Anthony de Haas.
Oh, that's not good for your health. Thank you, Alexander. It was fun.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Be sure not to miss the next videos here on WatchAdvisor on YouTube. Bye.